Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to check the Nebula Pro, the latest camera by Caddx for the DJI digital FPV system. In this video I'm going to quickly go over its features and specs, point out the differences between the new camera and the previous versions, and show you some flight footage. First of all, the Nebula Pro camera is available in two colors, white and black. You can get it with or without a 12 cm long coaxial cable, and also as a part of the Vista kit, which comes with the Vista digital transmission unit and the Rush FPV Cherry LHCP antenna. In terms of specs, the Nebula Pro is a micro-sized camera, and unlike the Nebula Micro version, it doesn't support analog systems. It is using a 2.1mm lens, which is the same one which is being used by the Nebula Micro and the DJI camera. The coaxial cable, which is bundled with the Nebula Pro, is more protected than the previous versions. Just like the previous Nebula cameras, it supports both Caddx Vista and DJI Air Unit. However, once connected to the DJI Air Unit, the video is going to be recorded on the onboard microSD card at 1080p 60 frames per second in comparison to 720p 60 frames per second on the previous Nebulas, and on top of that, the output frame rate has been doubled and it is 120 frames per second instead of 60 frames per second. In addition, the Nebula Pro features a 3/3" Cmos sensor, which has an aspect ratio of 16:9 and is a little bit bigger than the sensor of the DJI camera. The outer dimensions of the Nebula Pro are 19x19x20mm and it weighs 6.1 grams. In comparison, the DJI camera, which has non-standard dimensions of 20x20mm, weighs 9.3 grams. The Nebula Micro is slightly lighter than the Nebula Pro and weighs 5.9 grams. The Nebula Nano weighs 4.7 grams, and the Nebula Micro, which comes with a 1.66mm lens, weighs 8.4 grams. Here you can see what it looks like after removing the back cover of the Nebula Micro and Nebula Pro. These are actually two completely different cameras, and the only thing that they have in common is the 2.1mm lens. The Nebula Pro is actually very similar to the DJI camera, both in terms of specs and performance, and just like the DJI camera, you'll be able to adjust the camera settings using the DJI goggles, so you'll be able to toggle between 16:9 and 4:3 aspect ratios and adjust the picture settings, whereas on the Nebula Micro and Nano cameras, it's not possible. In fact, as far as I know, the Nebula Pro camera is going to be recognized by the DJI system as the DJI camera, as it doesn't require any firmware update. As for picture quality, I have already released side-by-side comparisons of the Nebula Pro with the Micro and DJI cameras, so in case you missed these videos, feel free to check them out. And as far as I can tell, the Nebula Micro is pretty much at par with the DJI camera, so under most situations it's going to be better than the Nebula Micro, except for low-light environments, where in my opinion the Nebula Micro is going to be better. The next thing that I've done is to change the Caddx Nebula Micro V2 camera that was bundled with the Diaton F4LR to the Nebula Pro. Here you can see a recording of the screens of the DJI goggles using a GoPro camera while flying the Nebula Pro, and it might be hard to notice, but the difference between the Nebula Pro and the Nebula Micro is huge, as the colors are much more vivid and the flight experience is much better. So overall, in my opinion, Caddx did an excellent job with the Nebula Pro, as it is a big upgrade over the previous Nebulas, and all we can hope now is that soon they are going to release a nano version. I'm going to wrap up this video with some flight footage, and by the way, soon I'm going to announce a giveaway of a Nebula Pro unit, so stay tuned. I hope you will enjoy the rest of this video, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notifications bell if you're not already subscribed. See you on my next videos, and goodbye.